Well, it's the 14th of November and we've been doing some very serious pulling to pieces. The engine is pretty well stripped. This is the pistons, of course, and the crankshaft here. The pistons are, I wouldn't reuse them anyway because I'm going to overbore, but the con rods and everything are fine. The crankshaft I think is fine. I've put a mic on all these journals and they all seem to be within specs, and there's very little ovality there at all, if any. There's a little bit of very slight scuffing, but I can't feel it with a fingernail or anything, so I think a little bit of very fine wet rub on that will clean that up, alright. And they're still standard size, which is good. That's the oil pump, all very black and messy, of course, as these things are. There's a little rack there I made for the cam followers and the valves. And the valves are actually in pretty good nick. They've been blowing a bit, but that's a dirty, I guess, exhaust valve. That's an inlet valve, and it's the carbon build-up, but the seats are fine, and there's appears to be plenty of meat on them. The camshaft I haven't inspected in great detail, but as far as I can see it looks okay. The lobes don't look worn through at all. The big ends are dead. You can see that copper backing there coming through the soft metal. So they'll be replaced anyway, but they are standard size as far as I can see. That's the oil pressure relief valve, which is interesting because it's sort of got a rounded end on it, and the ones I've seen have got more of a chamfered end. So I guess it's just a slight variation there. The head, well, we hope there's no cracks or anything in it, but it appears to be okay. All the valve seats, again, reasonably clean. So it appears to be alright. I don't know. I'll have that planed and fit in new valve guides and have the valves faced in and everything, so and have it hot tanked, of course, to clean all the crud out of it. There was no thermostat in it, which may mean that it's boiling, or somebody could have taken it out. The car did come from Arizona, which is hot, but not as hot as Australia, so it might have been overheating, which could be a problem with the radiator, or who knows. The sump is not so good. It has had a very bad knock just there on that side of the sump, and at one point I thought I could knock it out. I'm not convinced that I can, and I think I might have to fork out for a new aluminium sump, which is not going to be cheap and is going to cost me a bit to get over here from the UK. I might have a bit of a play around with this first, because I've got nothing to lose, but I'm very sceptical about being able to fix that so that it looks reasonable. And then onto the block, which is mucky, of course. There is some wear in the cylinders, which you would expect. When I tested the car when I first got it and got the engine running, and compression ratio was actually pretty good. It was around about 160, and I thought, well, the engine's probably not in bad nick, but it needs reboring. So it'll be a rebore, probably, I don't know, 30-40 thou over, and new pistons, rings, new main bearings, new camshaft bearings. I will have this hot tanked, of course, and decked, make sure it's all nice and flat. I hope the block's okay. There can be a bit of a problem sometimes with these, with oil getting into the water through an internal passageway, which is very difficult to repair. So it's a bit hard to know. You could spend a lot of money having them rebuilt, and then discover that there's a problem with it. So I don't know. I guess we just cross our fingers to a certain extent. But it appears to be solid. I can't see any cracks or anything. So that's the progress so far. I'll replace the timing chain and tensioner. The gearbox is over here and all back together, and ready to be painted. I had some paint mixed up that was eye matched from some of the original Healey green engine paint, so I might have a go at that, painting that gearbox. I was going to wait until I had the engine together. The car itself I haven't done much more on, except that I did put all these ducting hoses in place, which looks quite nice, but no real progress on there. The front is all back together again, brake pads. I'm going to use the original brake pads because they actually still have some writing on them, so there's very little wear on them, and I think they're in good nick, so we'll go with those. All the new steering boxes in. I think that's probably about all I can say about that. So the next step is to really, I was going to put this on, got access to an engine stand, but it's just a bit easier to pull it apart on the floor and get the stand in here, because room's getting a bit limited. So I'll use the engine stand when I come to rebuild the engine, because I think that'll be good. That'll give me it's a nice way to work. I did it when I rebuilt the MGA engine. Well, it's about the 22nd of November here, and just a quick one. I've just finished painting the gearbox, which I think has come up really well. Completely rebuilt, of course, and painted. That's a colour that I had eye matched to some of the original Healey. I think they call it dust grey or something, but it's well, it looks like green, really, metallic green, but it's fairly well bang on the original colour. From a sample that I got off the original gearbox. So that's pretty good progress. Next thing is to rebuild the engine, which is sitting over there at the moment, just the block. I've sent the crankshaft off to the rebuilders to check out the cranks of the journals to see if they need taking down or not.